Hi, in this video I aim to show you how to utilize the Linux file system and write paths to various functions. This is made for the Principles of Computational Biology class that I teach here at UT Austin. And I will be demonstrating using the EduPod computer remote computing system. I am going to visualize this through what's known as the RStudio server. And the reason why is because my students have access to that program, and in addition to giving access to R, it also gives access to the terminal, to that operating system. So I can communicate through the shell via the bash language, which is what that operating system utilizes. A lot of terminology. I had some previous videos that would hopefully help you understand some of those terms, so please go look at those. So just to start off with, if I am looking at the current slide that you are seeing, put my little face up here, my little face up here, we can see the file system that we use in this computer. Now there are going to be slight differences between different operating systems. That's one of the key differences between the various flavors of Linux-based operating systems. This one is for, I don't know what, I can't remember which one it's for. But this is going to be pretty indicative of the one that I use the most. So the slash directory, sometimes called the root, which unfortunately some operating systems based on Linux have a directory literally called root that belongs to like the administrative account. And so technically, I think this beginning of the file system should just be called the slash directory, although I do very frequently see it referred to as the root. Oftentimes, you will be operating in what's called the home directory. So the home directory contains user-specific profiles. If you've been assigned a certain directory for your files, it's probably located in something called home. That home directory may be stored inside of something else. I use the word store because on the EduPod, it's a directory called store, S-T-O-R. But on this diagram, it's just showing home. Inside the home directory, we're often going to have our user-specific directories, and that one's a special kind of directory that usually you and you alone have permission to write to. Administrative accounts can also access it, but other users can't. There's a symbol actually that stands for all of this. So for instance, if I wanted to write the path to Alice, I could write /root to go inside of the directory. I then put a slash after it, so then /Alice. And that would be the address to Alice's home directory. Alternatively, the symbol tilde stands for everything I just said. So tilde would stand for /root /Alice. And so if Alice wanted to change into that directory, she could say cd space tilde. Cd is a command that changes directory, very common usage. On the other hand, let's say Alice was an administrator and she wanted to access some of the temporary files stored on the computer. If that was the case, she could type in cd space /tmp. So that would be the path to the temporary directory. And that would change her directory if she had permission to do so. She could also run other commands. She could probably list the files in the temporary directory, so that'd be like ls space /tmp. But that's the idea of the file system. There's a lot of other files. I have a whole slide just for showing what those different things are. Let me drag my face out of the way. Put myself down in the corner. So if you explore this file system, you should be able to see what some of these different things mean. I don't really need to go through these. You're welcome to explore this on your own. It's just taken from this link right here, which is for a Red Hat system. People in my class, please be aware the EduPod is set up on Debian. So Red Hat is a relative of Debian via being Linux-based, but it's kind of a different like major lineage. So there are some differences in terms of how the actual file system is set up on the EduPod. So finally, I have this slide that demonstrates different symbols utilized in file paths. So there is one symbol that's used a lot. So the dot represents the current directory. If I'm trying to create a script that is highly portable and really is just going to be able to be run anywhere within your file system, I will frequently be using a dot. And that's because it's what's termed as a relative path indicator, because it's not like, it doesn't have an origin. It's not absolute path. It's just from the current location stuff. So that's relative to your frame of reference, which is wherever you're currently at. That one might be a little bit tricky, but the next one will probably explain it. Let's say if you were doing that and you wanted to refer to the directory above, so the one that came prior and contained the directory you're currently in. So if I'm saying cd and I want to go to the directory above my current one, I would put cd space dot dot, and it would actually change my directory into the directory above. You'll notice in some of my examples I'm leaving off the /, and that's because it's often ambiguous if you need the /. / is usually used to indicate an additional path. So like here, touch in the previous directory, touch creating a file, touch in the previous directory, the name hello world. So that serves as a delimiter. Oh, so that serves as a delimiter for hello world. That's the idea. Now let's talk about some absolute file paths. So if I really need something controlled, like I do not want it to do anything anywhere else without my permission, I can use an absolute path, something that says from the origin of the file system, do this here. So this is like specific to my user identification on this server. This won't work for you. If you try to run this line of code, it would say permission denied because you don't have access to my directory. On the other hand, if I gave you this, which is also an example of an absolute path technically, this would work. And the reason why is because the tilde is a stand-in for your home directory, which it kind of is a little bit of a compromise, right? It allows you to share code really easily because we all have a tilde directory, but all of our tilde directories are named something slightly different. That said, it's still considered to be absolute because it has a defined starting point that for your user profile, that tilde does not change. So is it absolute? Is it relative? I've kind of argued. I think it's somewhere in between. But I don't know, the forums I've looked through seem to declare it as technically absolute. But it's a fun little fringe case, right? So let's do a few. Oh, and then I just wanted to list one more things, and then I think I'll actually create a separate video that's me digging through and showing some of these change directories. A concept that you should know is that files do have properties. There is a command called ls that is quite handy in the sense that it allows us to easily visualize the files within our current directory. So here I have demonstrated the use of ls with the L switch and the A switch activated. So this is using short arguments, and then the ability to kind of squish them together allows me to visualize the long list format and shows all the files. Put my face over here now. All meaning that even these hidden files that start with a dot are being shown. The L stands for long list. That means instead of just giving me the names of all these files, it kind of gives me extra information, which I like to see. The server I'm working on already has by default activated color mode. And so I'm able to see things like this directory right here has some sort of special property that means it is green colored. I want to say that means it's executable. Yeah, I can see that right here. This blue indicates a directory, and white indicates a file. So just a single file directory, meaning like a folder in Windows, something that can contain other files. On the left side of the long list format, I see file properties. So properties are a big topic, but the major idea is the first letter indicates what type of file is it. Is it a directory or is it a file? So here I have D or a dash for directory or not a directory. Then there are 3 letters, 3 letters, and 3 letters. These are repeating for the permissions for different groupings. The first 3 are for the owner, so I have read and write properties for all of my files, and then some of my files I have executable permissions. Kind of what falls under executable is a little bit confusing, especially when it applies to a directory. But when it applies to a file, it's somewhat understandable. It's like if I have a program, if I want to execute that program, I may need to make it executable, at least to be able to execute it using the operating system. That's not true for files that are run by other programs. So like if I have a R script file, I would call the R script program, and I would tell it to run that file. And so yes, it's a program running a program, but these are coded slightly differently. But that's the general idea. So none of my files have an execution. It can't be executed, but I can read and write to them. My group, in this case, my group was ccbb_workshops_1. This was a class I was teaching my previous summer. So anybody in my group had read and write permissions to certain files within this setup. And so that was just so that I could kind of show off some of these abilities. Most of the time, you're probably going to turn these off in your home directory, and you may have a shared directory where you give each other permission to collaborate via your collective grouping. And your profile can have multiple groups associated with it, but a single file can only have one group associated with it, at least on the systems that I've worked on, and to my knowledge. That's how that's currently working. The final section, others, is just everyone else, so people who are not you and who are not in your group. And I guess not including the root, because the root has all permissions all the time. But others is like they do not have many permissions in my file. For some reason, my bashrc file could have been read by other people. I don't know why that is. Maybe I was experimenting. I don't really remember how that happened. But my bashrc is like a hidden file that controls my account configuration, something you really don't want to change if you don't know what you're doing, but it can be really powerful once you learn how to use it. There are some additional properties here. So the number of links, so that's like the concept of kind of like a shortcut, but just the way directories connect can have multiple places. The owner, the grouping, so I've already talked about those. The size in bytes, there are ways to convert that to other size types, and sometimes if they get too large, I think by default LS doesn't convert them if they're too large. You just get really long numbers, but I think if you add the, I'd have to go look, I don't want to say off the top of my head. If you add a certain argument, you can get it to like convert to gigabytes or megabytes, or even kilobytes, just as the numbers get large and harder to read. I can see the recent date something was modified. By default, I don't think you get to see when it was created, which can be a little bit frustrating sometimes. And then finally, the file name. The only really caveat here is the dot files are hidden. And so like if I just called ls by itself, I would have only seen sod1_k9 fastday and so much.txt. Okay, that's it. I'll have another video going through file paths and how to really explore and manipulate some of these types of files. Thank you.